Hi VC. Hello VC. Dave here with you. Yeah, so it's a beautiful sunny day, so I'm just going to shoot this while the sun is still, while I still have the light. I'm going to shoot two videos. First I'm going to show my vinyl finds, and then I'm going to show some recent CD finds. I've decided to split them into two because I don't want the video to run too long, and plus I suppose not everybody is interested in CDs, so if you only want to look at the vinyl, you can skip the CD one, but I'll be putting one of the CDs I'll be probably putting up in a couple of days. I'll leave it till later in the week. Anyway, let's start off with the vinyl. A mixture of record fair finds and some charity shop pickups. I was at a record fair the weekend before last. Record fair that comes around here in town about 4 or 5 times a year. Now there's a seller there who there's a few sellers come from the UK, and there's this one guy who he comes over from Wales. Now he hasn't actually been there in about a year. Everybody had kind of thought that he'd actually quit selling, but I was very glad to see him back, because this is a guy who I've bought a lot of stuff from in the past, and he's usually pretty reasonable price wise, and he specializes in stuff from the 60s and 70s. Anyway, all four items which I'm going to show I bought from him. Initially I only bought two. Like, I was a little low on money, so initially I only bought two records. And anyway, okay, I'll show those first. One big want list item knocked off. That is Magician's Hat, Bo Hanson. Had been looking for this for quite a while. I have the other two, Lord of the Rings and Watership Down. This is the one in the middle. I think this came out in 75, I think. Let's have a look. Oh no, it actually came out in 73. So yeah, 73. Yeah, so basically the kind of 1970s trilogy. You've Lord of the Rings, you've this, and then Watership Down. So yeah, I had been looking to add this to my collection. Superb album. Anyone familiar with Bo Hanson? He's a Swedish, primarily keyboardist. So yeah, this is very heavy on the keyboards and synthesizers. So entirely instrumental. For anybody, his best known work is the Lord of the is well, it's not really a soundtrack. It's not it's not a soundtrack to a movie or anything. It was just basically inspired by the book. But this is kind of this is a similar kind of a vein, similar inspiration, and it's got that very kind of kind of the Shire kind of influenced artwork. So yeah, really pleased to pick that up, because it had been on my want list for a long time. Now the other item, now I'm going to have to be a bit careful showing this, because this cover actually got me blocked on Facebook for a few days when I put it up on a Facebook site. Yeah, so I don't know if the same thing's going to happen if I show it now on YouTube. So I suppose I'd better yeah, there is yeah, this cover does contain women's bare boobs. This is by Klaus Schulze. Now this, when I grabbed this, I actually thought, Klaus Schulze, he did the soundtrack to a 1977 porn movie called Body Love. Now, when I picked this up, I actually thought that this was the soundtrack, but this is actually a follow-up. Now, it doesn't actually state that, but I suppose I should have. It says it on the labels, all right, but not on the actual album cover itself. This is a follow-up, Body Love Part 2. I don't know, it might have been, music left over that hadn't been used in the initial. I don't know if any of the music on this was actually used in the movie itself or what the story was. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad I picked it up though, because this is really superb, spacey synthesizer. There's one. The final track is a real tour de force. It's kind of a moog etique, it's called, and something like 14 minutes long, or 13. Well, just over 13 minutes actually. Yeah, real spacey track. I know that there's a much nicer view on the front cover, but I'm kind of a bit paranoid after getting blocked on Facebook. So yeah, okay, that's enough. Okay, so Body Love. Yeah, the actual title is Body Love Additions to the Original Soundtrack, and it is on Island and was released in 1977. Okay, so on the day of the fair, I initially bought those two. Now I was looking through this guy's. He had a lot of stuff, a lot of great stuff. Now I was kind of trying to be a bit thrifty because I didn't have a whole lot of money with me, but I just had to go back and grab these other two items. I was thinking about it, and I thought, to hell with it, I'll just do it. First off, Roy Harper, the Sophisticated Beggar. This is his debut album, which originally came out in 1966. Now, this is a reissue from 1977 on a label called. I'll just show you the label because it's quite an interesting label there. A label called Big Ben. Yeah, so 1977 repress. Got this for a really nice price. Got it for €6. So, definitely. I mean, you so rarely see Roy Harper in the wild, and even though it's not a first pressing, I thought that was an excellent price for it. So just, mightn't see it again in the wild for a long time. Yeah, so this is his debut album, entirely acoustic. Basically pretty stripped down, pretty minimalistic, but superb songs. I don't know. I got to see him live late last year, and got him to sign a copy of Stormcock, of his most acclaimed album, which I bought. It was reissued, which I bought at the concert. And but anyway, enough of that. This is the other item which I came back for, which I was thinking of, and I thought, okay, just go for it, just because I thought it was a really good price. Peter Gabriel, Us. Yeah, so this came out in 1992. It's a follow-up to So. This is an original UK pressing on Virgin. On Virgin Records. We'll just check. Yeah, it's a double. No, it came out. Oh yeah, Virgin, yeah, Virgin Records. Condition-wise, it's a little, especially the second disc has been played quite a bit. There's a few scratches, but you can hear a bit of crackle in the quieter moments, but it plays fine. I picked it up for €7, which I thought was a steal. You know, especially for an original 90s pressing. Yeah, so this not his best album. I don't think it quite holds up to his, you know, his what came before it, but it has a few really strong tracks on here, including Steam, which is kind of very reminiscent of Sledgehammer. A lot of the tracks are, yeah, they're kind of dealing with the breakup of his marriage and a lot of kind of personal lyrics, dealing with quite personal issues. But yeah, not his best album, but definitely I couldn't leave it behind for that price. I thought that was a steal, so grab that. Okay, so that was the record fair. Just moving on. This is something I grabbed in a few weeks ago in that bookshop stroke record shop where I made that big haul of original 1990s vinyl. This item might very well have been part of that, and maybe he put it out a bit later, but this is by The Fall. The Fall, for anybody, I'm sure most of you are familiar with The Fall. Long running, I think running for about 40 years now. Manchester post-punk band with just one constant member, Marquis Smith. This came out in 1994, I think. This is a mini. It was an EP basically. It's called 15 Ways. 3 tracks on it. 15 Hey Students, and a $500. What's that? $500 bottle of wine. Limited edition. I don't know how many copies of this were pressed, but it's clear vinyl. Very nice. So I saw The Fall live here in Cork. I think it was about 4 years ago. Was it 5 years ago? 2012. So don't see their stuff in the wild very often. So had to grab this. I actually have very little Fall on vinyl. So okay, now the rest of what I'm going to show is entirely charity shop finds. Now these are 3 7-inch singles, which I meant to show in my last video, but kind of ran out of time. These I picked up, well, okay, again, charity shops, stroke thrift shops, or they're known in the States, in America, as Goodwill shops. You know, these places where people just donate or give away stuff that they no longer want, and they're usually sold at usually pretty, you know. You have to look long and hard to find, you know, vinyl, but sometimes you really can get lucky. Now, these were all part of a big pile of 7-inch singles, none of which had their sleeves. They were just all piled on top of each other without any sleeves. So as you can imagine, they weren't. Most of them weren't in great condition. I think there's something like 30 of them. But just went through them all, and I picked these 3. There's a few more that I left behind because they're just so scratched. They were 50 cents each. David Bowie, Space Oddity. And what's on the other side? Changes and Velvet Goldmine. Reissue, I think this is from the mid-70s. Not particularly rare. I almost left this behind because it's not in great condition. It plays okay, but it's pretty scratched. Oh, and by the way, this I had to get the news. These are sleeves which I got specially, so they're cardboard sleeves, because as I said, they're all just stacked on top of each other, you know. So in this charity shop. Now the next 2 finds are pretty interesting. This is pretty rare. Now this is by an Irish band called Mushroom. Now I don't know. Some of you may know of an album by them called Early One Morning. Extremely rare collectible album. Very, very sought after. I've only ever seen 2 copies of it in the wild, and both of them were like going for 3-figure sums. That came out in 1973. This is actually a single which they released from the album. It is called Devil Among the Tailors. It's kind of prog rock with a mixture of Irish folk and bit of a touch of psychedelia. Yeah, it's released on an Irish label called Hawk. Now this is pretty rare. This originally would have had a picture sleeve, but as I said, all the sleeves were missing. Yeah, this goes, I think, usually goes for around 20 to 30 euros, I think, on Discogs, but I picked it up for 50 cents, which is a steal, and it's not in too bad condition considering the way they were all stacked. There's a few scratches on it, but it plays fine. A bit of some surface noise on side 2, but considering it's in pretty acceptable condition, for considering that they were all the way they were all stacked. Next up, yeah, this is a single by Aphrodite's Child, a Greek psychedelic band. This is their debut single from 1968. Now this is actually a reissue. This is an Irish reissue from the mid-70s, I think. Yeah, 1975, as it says there on Mercury. So this was an Irish-only reissue. So it's pretty rare enough. Yeah, good, decent, pretty decent slice of Greek psychedelia. Vangelis and Demi Russo were both in the band at that time. Yeah, they released that album 666, which is another hugely collectible grail among us vinyl hunters. Okay, the rest of what I'm going to show are all charity shop finds. I found these recently. Another local charity shop came across a big bunch of 12-inch singles, mostly stuff from the 80s and 90s. A lot of it was not that interesting, but anyway, I picked up this. This is by a band called Renegade Soundwave. As a single called Positive ID, which came out on Mute Records in 1995. Renegade Soundwave, a British band, kind of from the EBM, electronic body music movement, which is kind of genre which developed in the mid-80s. I think initially developed in Belgium. It's kind of influenced by industrial music, but a kind of dancey industrial music, kind of influenced by DAF and maybe later Cabaret Voltaire. So Renegade Soundwave were a British band who were kind of part of that movement, and yeah, this is a fairly decent this is almost kind of more techno, really. I think they were this came out in the 90s, so they're kind of probably going in a more techno kind of dance direction, but also, now this I picked up because I thought from the name of this band, this is by a band called Screaming Trees. Now, straight off, I thought it was the Screaming Trees, Mark Lanigan band, the band from Seattle. But it turns out it's a totally different band with the same name. This is a British group who were active in the late 80s, and like Renegade Soundwave, they're also from that kind of EBM, electronic industrial kind of movement. This is a single called Asylum, and this came out in 1987 on a label called Native Music. I don't know if you can quite read that there. Yeah, this is actually yeah, very quite reminiscent of Cabaret Voltaire. I think they also came from Sheffield, which is, there's not much about them online. They're hard enough band to Google. Anytime you Google their name, it's like you just get all the stuff about the other more well-known band. But yeah, they appear to have come from Sheffield as well, and were active in the late 80s. So yeah, this is a pretty decent single by them as well. Now, I went back a few days later to the same location. They put out some more stuff. Most of it wasn't very interesting, but I did make this one find. This is a band called New Music, that's M-U-S-I-K, and this album is called Anywhere. Again, British band active in the early 80s. Now this came out in 1981 on a label called GTO. This is yeah, this is a really good album. It's very much synthpop. Kind of reminds me a bit of orchestral maneuvers in the dark. It's probably the closest comparison I can find, but I think they really do have a quite distinctive sound of their own. Some superb kind of poppy, synth pop songs on this. Yeah, so it's a quite really nice find. Not a band I was usually familiar with. I think I vaguely knew their name, but I wouldn't have been that familiar with them. Okay, so that's it. That's the vinyl update. Keep an eye out for the CD update, for those of you who are bothered about CDs. But thanks very much for watching, and see you all next time.